Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging, literally, into a massive question that goes back millions and millions of years.
I mean, think about it for a second. How on earth do we know what happened so long ago, before people, before writing, before anything we'd recognize? It feels like a total mystery, right? Well, it turns out the answer is literally right beneath our feet.
Yeah, the ground itself, it's basically a giant history book. It's got this incredible story written in stone, just waiting for us to figure out how to read it.
So, the key to unlocking this whole story is a special kind of rock. It's called sedimentary rock. And really, it's just formed from all this stuff, sand, mud, even ash from volcanoes that settles down at the bottom of lakes and oceans, building up layer by tiny layer. Okay, the best way to think about this is like a giant, messy, geological layer cake. Seriously, every time something big happens, like a huge flood or a volcano erupting, it's like adding a new layer of frosting or sprinkles on top of the last one.
And this doesn't happen overnight. We're talking millions of years of more and more layers just piling on top. All that weight creates this immense pressure that squishes everything down, turning all that mud and sand into solid rock. And here's the cool part. It creates a perfect timeline. So the deeper you dig, the further back in time you go. All the oldest clues, the really juicy secrets, they're always way down at the bottom.
Okay, so we've got this amazing history book made of rock, but that's not much help if no one knows the language, right? So who are these detectives who can actually read the clues? Well, let me introduce you to the paleontologists. These are the folks whose entire job is to hunt for and study the clues left behind by ancient life. We're talking about the fossils of plants and animals that disappeared millions upon millions of years ago.
But wait a second. I bet some of you are thinking, isn't that an archaeologist? And you know what? That is an excellent question. It's super common to mix them up, so let's clear that up right now.
All right, here's the easy way to remember it. If you're thinking about dinosaurs, you want a paleontologist. They study fossils and ancient life. But if you're thinking about ancient tombs, lost cities, or anything to do with human history, that's a job for an archaeologist. See? They're both detectives of the past. They just work on totally different cold cases. So, now we know who the detectives are. But how do they actually, get the clues? It's not just random digging, it's a really careful scientific process. The whole investigation really comes down to three main steps. First, you've got to excavate. That's the fancy word for digging, but it's super careful work, usually in places like ravines where those old rock layers are already exposed. Then, you get the absolute thrill of discovery, that amazing moment you find something for the very first time. And finally, you examine it. You look at every single tiny detail to figure out exactly what you found. And all of that digging and examining leads us to the really exciting part. What are they actually finding? What are these incredible clues that let us rebuild the story of our planet?
Well, these treasures, these amazing clues that get preserved in rock for millions of years, they have a name. We call them fossils.
And a fossil isn't just one thing. It could be the massive skull of some giant animal or bones that have literally turned to stone. But it could also be something much more delicate, like the imprint of an ancient leaf, or even a footprint that an animal left in the mud that then hardened and was preserved. How cool is that? Now, a lot of these fossils, as you can probably guess, belong to the most famous rock stars of the ancient world, the dinosaurs. Those huge, wild animals that lived such a mind-bogglingly long time ago. And think about this, a single fossil skull. It's not just a bone, it's a whole biography. The shape of it can tell us what the animal looked like. The teeth, they tell us what it ate. Was it a carnivore or an herbivore? It's like a perfect little window, letting us peek into the life of a creature from millions of years ago.
That's why every single fossil they find, no matter how tiny, is so important. Each one is a single piece of this gigantic puzzle. And as we put more and more pieces together, we start to see the incredible, epic story of life on Earth.
And that really brings this whole puzzle into focus. But the thing is, the puzzle isn't finished, not even close. There are still so many pieces out there waiting to be discovered. Which leaves me with one last question for you. If you could have a paleontologist discover the fossil of any long-lost creature, what would you want it to be? Think about that one. Thanks for joining us for this explaining.